Thank you so much. Well, if you can hear me in the back in the left corner, you still have time to come in. Thank you, everyone, for making the effort. Those of you standing up at the back, why don't you come in, take a seat, get comfortable. I promise it will make you feel a little bit better afterwards. So why don't we start by just getting everyone to stand up. So if everyone can stand up. Yeah. Trust me, this is good for your health span. All right. Now, yeah, stretch out. Make sure you have a bit of space between each other. Now, I know this sounds really crazy, but I want you to start jogging on the spot. So do this. Come on. Faster, faster, faster. Come on. You know those fast feet? Keep doing it. 10 more seconds. Come on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, stop. Now take a deep breath. Close your eyes. Hold it. And out. Make a noise. Do it one more time. Hold it. And out. Okay, last thing I promise. I want you to turn to the person next to you. I want you to look into the person next to you's eyes for 10 seconds. Okay? This is the awkward bit of the presentation. But honestly, look at each other's eyes. Still a few more seconds. 4, 2, 1. Okay, great. So, why did I do this? I wanted to ground you guys a little bit into some of the modalities of health. So, human connection, movement, breath work, and just mindfulness. There's a lot of things that we can do in our day-to-day that affect how we live our lives, how healthy our lives will be. And I think we can all do a little bit of that every single day. So with that, I'm going to introduce myself. So I'm Pete Ward. I'm the co-founder and CEO. You can all sit down. And I'm going to be talking about Humanity, which is my company, but in the context of how we can all make a huge impact in making the world a healthier place so that we can help not just ourselves, but others increase their health span and be around for their grandkids. So to start off, I'm going to show you a video. Volume up, please.
What these guys have built already is incredible. Humanity is transforming people's health, and I cannot wait to see what's coming next.
There are very, very few people who can build awesome products in consumer and health tech. And Pete and Mike are two incredible individuals who can do just that and more. That's why I invested.
Cancer, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, and even diabetes are primarily caused by one thing: aging.
The problem is we rent our health, and then when the repair bill comes due, we wish we had invested in it.
I lost my dad to a severe stroke in his early 60s after he became type 2 diabetic.
I lost a loved one to late-stage cancer. I felt completely helpless, but that's all about to change.
Your genetics is not your destiny. Aging is measurable and reversible.
We aren't helpless. For those of us still lucky enough to be alive, there's a science to longevity. There's so much we can do to live longer, healthier, and happier lives.
Which is why we built Humanity. Humanity takes the cutting-edge science of longevity and places it in the palm of your hand. At its core, it does two things. One, it monitors your rate of aging and biological age. And two, it guides you to slow it down and even reverse it. Under the hood, it uses AI to analyze your movement, heart rate, blood biomarker, and lifestyle patterns captured from your smartphone, wearables, and Humanity app.
It's like the Waze traffic app, but for your health. People have never had a concrete feedback loop to let them know if what they're doing to be healthier is working.
Humanity is that feedback loop.
We are giving that superpower.
Humanity's founders have already scaled their direct-to-consumer platforms to over 1 billion people. I believe Humanity is poised to be even bigger, democratizing access to these insights to the world.
The digital health and AI market is growing at a staggering 20.7% per year and is expected to reach over $1 trillion by the end of this decade. We are witnessing a confluence of cutting-edge research in aging science, AI, and a societal shift towards health and prevention, culminating in the perfect moment, a moment that demands action now.
Our mission is to give 1 billion years of health back to humanity by the end of the decade. To achieve that, we need to be highly collaborative and radically inclusive.
We are no longer helpless.
We're no longer helpless.
We're no longer helpless.
We are no longer helpless.
We are no longer helpless. We have the team, track record, and relentless drive to accomplish our mission.
But we need passionate investors and advocates like you to help us get there.
Join us, and together we can help all humanity live healthier for longer.
So I'm hoping that gave you a sense of why this is an opportunity that we can all be part of. I'll share you a QR code afterwards that you can check it out for yourself. But let me give you a bit of context of why we set this up in the first place, why I think we can all do something about it, and why it's the biggest, frankly, trillion-dollar market opportunity to invest in as well. So as you saw from the video, our entire focus is to help humanity slow down their aging. And our mission is to give 1 billion years of health back to humanity. So by 2030, we want to have a huge health span and longevity dividend that will transform society. And if we were to achieve that, as we heard in the video, apart from being super collaborative and radically inclusive, we need to have the track record and expertise to know how to do that. So my co-founder, Michael, and I have both experienced scaling and exiting consumer tech businesses that reached 1 billion users. In my case, I created a travel social network, which became the largest at the time, which sold to last minute. And I also created a tech community, which has been transformational in creating the next unicorns in Europe. And Mike was on the founding team of Badoo, which became the world's largest dating site, which sold for over 3 billion, and also built Anchorfree out to 900 million users, which sold for 300 million. So we know how to create these platforms that engage, retain, convert, and drive value to consumers. But we wanted to turn our talents and expertise into something much more impactful, which became aging. But we're not scientists. We're not the people like some of the great people here who are doing some work, like Brian Kennedy and Jan, who was at the talk at Mito Health's event yesterday, where Kenneth is kindly here supporting. And you know, there's very few companies yet that are doing these things for the end user, for the consumer. But you need to surround yourself with people like this, people like George Churchill, you saw in the video, Dr. Tam, Kristen Fortney, who's founder of BioAge, who is created essentially the first human trial successful drug for reducing muscle loss, sarcopenia. And it's all based on these longitudinal data sets that the likes of Tonu Escu from Estonia, the Estonian Biobank, enable companies like ourselves to do, which is to access these data sets of biomarkers that have been monitored for years and years. And of course, then using the expertise in genomics, in blood analysis, and cognitive health impairment to understand how we can bring this all together in a way that's easy to access for the end user. But why did we care about this? Well, you heard from the video that I lost my dad. I also lost my mum last year to emphysema. She practically suffocated herself to death. And she had a nervous breakdown when I was 4 and suffered from, bipolar disorder throughout my life. And as I was saying to my good friend Tracy here, it's a tough, debilitating disease that you as this child has to, take over in terms of how you're going to deal with that. And when I was a kid, I didn't really have any tools to give her like Humanity or equivalent to help her like move into the right direction. And that feeling of helplessness is something we've all felt, whether it be yourself having a health event or whether it be a loved one that you have who got sick. You know, these things have a funny way of shaping your horizon. You know, there's the famous proverb that says, you know, you can have 1,000 wishes, but if you don't have your health, you have one. And so this is a huge societal problem, and it's something that affects all of us. But if we were to cure just cancer, we'd only actually live another 3.5 years on average, because one of the other four horsemen, you know, cardiovascular disease, dementia, diabetes, or equivalent, will get us anyway. So when we were looking at what we can do to have the biggest impact given our skill set, we were thinking, well, we can go after cancer, or we can go after cardiovascular disease, which is how my dad died. But we're not going to actually solve the bigger problem, which is, well, how do we stop people getting sick from something else? And if you look at the number one cause of all diseases, including non-communicable ones like COVID, which affected so many of us, it's aging. And aging is therefore something that, you know, as you heard from George Church, we need to focus on because it's measurable and it's reversible. You know, you can have a chronological age of 35, but you could be biologically 50 or 20. And so to be clear on this and why I'm focusing on health span, because a lot of people kind of get misconstrued with lifespan. You know, do we really want to extend, you know, people who are sick for longer? Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people in the market are doing great things to keep our loved ones prolonged in their life and reduce the suffering when they're sick. But we don't want to just do this. We don't want to have a lot of really sick people sticking around to 120. What we actually want to do is focus on health span, because if we can make people fully functional for as long as possible, then we compress the sick state, hopefully to, you know, not at all, and then you die gracefully at the end, but you've had a full life and you've not had to deal with the suffering and the burdens that places upon your family and society. So the real sort of aha moment for us when we were looking at how do we create something that's going to impact 1 billion people, you know, rather than just 100,000 people or 1 million. And in our discovery, we actually came across a company that's based here in Singapore called Giro, who had done some incredible data science and AI modeling on the UK Biobank. And essentially what they did, and what you see here is essentially a graph that shows you the predictive power of using different types of models to predict when people are going to get sick or die. And what we found was that there was actually a way to monitor movement and heart rate that was as predictive as getting your bloods done. Can you imagine that? So rather than just going to your clinic and taking a vial of blood and seeing what your cholesterol levels are and your C-reactive protein and HbA1c and all these good things that the doctor will tell you whether you're healthy or not, we can tell you how healthy you are just by the smartphone in your pocket. And that's much more scalable. So humanity's algorithms are built on these movement patterns, which are based on your smartphone. And if you have it, heart rate from your wearables. And then you can use AI and machine learning to essentially predict your risk of disease and death by us having modeled that data against these longitudinal data sets like the NHANES and the UK Biobank. So our solution to this problem is to create a very simple, simplicity is the art of sophistication, as you heard from Steve Jobs, app that can live on your smartphone that does two things. First, it monitors your rate of aging and biological age, and two, it guides you to slow it down. Like you heard in the video, the idea is to make it like a traffic app. If you think about it, the AI and what works to get us from A to B, we don't even think about whether it works. We just trust it. And then it tells us to turn right, and it will get us there in 17 minutes. Lo and behold, we get there in 17 minutes, and we know that the direction it's taking us is the right one. So we have the power to do this now with data. We can essentially map you to your digital bio twin, look at what made them, or the healthiest portion of people like them, the healthiest they can be, and then guide you to be that person. And so if we're going to make this effective for not just, you know, the biohacker community, but also the tech illiterate, your mum and dad, your kids, we need to make it as easy to understand as ABC. And so we have this lag measure, your biological age and rate of aging, which is your indicator, if you like, your compass and your geocoordinates. And then we have guidance, which is a function of all the different modalities in health, like your movement, nutrition, mind, and recovery. And then we gamify it. We give you a daily score that is based on all the things you're doing in a given day. So it's not that you have to do high intensity interval training to always get a high score. You can be the person that goes out for a walk with your dog and you're building up, points that shows you there are other ways to get to the same result. There are also other things that you may not be doing that you can try. And here's a great example of one that really resonated with us. So Jane Metcalf, she's the founder of Wired magazine and the kind of the incubator business there. And she literally changed her entire focus on health based on her experiences with humanity. And that's why she's an investor and advisor. She was really into her HIIT training and like high active fitness. And she considered herself an athlete. But then she had this tremor in her arm and she just assumed it was genetic. And then it wasn't until she started to focus more on rest and recovery and mindfulness and the things that associate with those types of behaviors that she realized it was actually because she was straining her nervous system and putting herself in a position that was actually creating this tremor. And it changed her whole focus from being, can I run this marathon, to can I just be healthier, younger, increase my health span. So I was having a great chat with a guy called Peng earlier, who's one of the sort of leading venture capital guys here in Singapore. And we were really talking about macro trends, how we can solve education, health. And he said, people focus too much on LTV CAC, lifetime value and cost per acquisition as a measure of success. And he said, what they really should be focusing on is virality, the K factor, and retention. Because if you can't get people to actually do something, then what's the point? You can give them a complete PDF of 100 things of here's how you can be healthier. But if everyone looks at that and goes, great, and then they just put it in the drawer and then they carry on with their day-to-day lives, it's not going to change anything. And in health, behavior change is the holy grail. So we've already cracked that. We have a huge retention. After 12 weeks, 65% of the premium users are still using it. And of those that are using it, 65% are using it at least once a week and 35% are using it once a day. And 12% are converting to premium, which is basically 10x the industry average. And we're only just getting started. So my background and experience with my co-founder is viral growth. That's how we got to 1 billion users. We're building the viral engine for growth now. And this is about to get to the tens of millions and hundreds of millions. And to give you a sense of the feedback we're getting, so Apple, off the record, we're talking to them, doing a big strategic partnership. They absolutely love what we're doing. They said, they actually said since this, we didn't know what we were looking for and then we found it in what you guys are doing. And that's because they have 3 focal areas: health, environment, and privacy. And they realized that this was something that's not just for the fitness community, it's something that can help all people get healthier. Ranging to our investors, influencers, and of course the average user who just, finds that it's a game changer app. But this is one of my favorite graphs. This is, I think, showing you why what we're doing really does change things. This is the data on the left of the line is what people are doing normally, the median average movement. And then the right of the line is the 40 days after signing up to Humanity. And what do you notice? You notice a stark increase and sustained increase over the next 40 days, which means something has happened. Something has shifted in their mindset to think, I need to do something about this. And what's really interesting is for those who are, have a BMI of over 30, the increase is even higher. It's 18% instead of 15%. So I think what this tells me is that people just didn't have a concrete feedback loop to know whether what they were doing was making them healthier or not. What they need is a way to know, am I getting younger? Am I getting older? What is my actual risk of getting sick so that I can make a change? So the title of the talk was Healthspan 2030. And why 2030? Well, if we can get 1 billion years of health back to the world by the end of this decade, and by the way, to achieve that, we can't just do it ourselves. We need to partner with healthcare systems. We need to partner with diagnostic companies, with the insurance providers, with the practitioners, and every part of the health ecosystem. Then we can have a huge longevity dividend and health span dividend for society. So a couple of guys, you may have heard of David Sinclair, a guy called Andrew J. Scott, Martin Ellison out of the University of Oxford. They put together a paper that was based on economic theory that showed the value back to society if we can just give an extra year of health back to the world. And that was that calculated to about $47,000. But essentially, we've worked out that if we were to get 1 billion years of health, it would, we could achieve about $50 trillion worth of value back to society. And this is just a good framework to think about if you're either trying to enter this space and you want to do something that's hugely impactful, because, by the way, I'm not saying just we're the only ones who can do this, but really a way to think of it is, what is the impact on health and how many people can we access? So I just want to point out a couple of examples. So, all great companies, but Human Longevity Inc., one of the most well-raised companies in the world. They've raised hundreds of millions. And they offer a full-body MOT for $25,000 to very wealthy individuals in the US who want to get their full-body MRI, all their diagnostic tests, and then they try and give you personalized recommendations on how to improve that. The problem is the average Joe is not going to be able to afford $25,000 to get these sort of tests. So the impact for that individual might be high, but for society, it's relatively low. And then on the other end, you've got companies like Calm and Fitbit who have hit the mainstream, but they really only focus on one modality like mindfulness, or they focus on fitness, when there are so many other aspects of health like emotional health and cognitive health and what you eat and so on. So really what we need to do is really understand the more holistic picture of what's causing us to be healthy. And that's very much where we make our strategic decisions from. So just so you guys know where we are right now, we're right at the beginning. We've raised about $5 million thus far, but we're sort of pre-seed. We are the #1 longevity app, but we've got a long way to go before we hit our goal. We're currently offering digital premium, and we saw you're getting a 12% conversion to that. We're in the process of doing a few large trials or studies, pilots with some large companies, companies like Apple, Holland & Barrett, and Strava, who are going to really enable this to their customer bases and their their teams. And we're also going to be adding other sort of ways in which we can capture data, not just movement and heart rate, but also blood analysis. And we've got a paper in Nature, sort of the big publication, it's in peer review, where we've actually shown that with only 6 blood analytes, give a predicted biological age, which means that it's much more cost effective and much more scalable, because any blood work you guys have done with your doctors, even if it was for kidney function or for some general illness, can be used to give you a feedback loop to tell you how you're aging. So in conclusion, our vision is to help transform preventative health by extending health span for all. And we want to do that by combining these different areas that have not been combined before, both the actions that people are taking, the biomedical markers, whether that be your blood analytes, your DNA methylation markers, and the digital markers that very few people fail to capture, like your movement and heart rate patterns, as well as the actual aging models themselves, so the different ways of measuring the impact of these biomarkers, so that we can revolutionize preventative healthcare, because we can then use AI to harness the value of what these interconnections mean. And actually, one of the things that we're very passionate about doing is opening this up to the world. So not creating patents around the models, not trying to create these siloed data sets, but actually opening them up to federated learning frameworks so that anyone else, whether it be a private company, a pharmaceutical company, a health system, or a company like ourselves where we benefited from the UK Biobank, can essentially train their models on our data sets. And you can even create synthetic data sets, which is what we're also building in-house, where you can essentially mimic the real personally identifiable information, but never reveal personally identifiable information. So it's better than even anonymized or synonymized data. And in so doing, you can transform the world's system through creating the world's largest biobank and integrated preventative health monitoring system, dwarfing the largest biobank in the world within 3 years. So why I'm here, one of the reasons I'm here, I'm looking to strengthen our sort of support structure with a couple more individual investors. We are launching on the public a crowd raise fund so we can get our customers to get behind us. We've got 75 world-renowned investors already. And we're offering essentially another up to 1.2 million after having already closed 1.8 million on the same terms to people to back us on our mission. The terms are 15% discount on a 30 million cap, and we are essentially offering this to the public in about 30 days' time. So if you guys want to find out more, you can get your phones out now, and this will work. It's not that advanced technology, but it's quite cool. If you actually get your phones out and just click on the link, this will take you to our wefunder.com/humanity page. You can then see the video again, or you can read up about some of our milestones and achievements. And then if you wanted to reserve an allocation before we open up to the public, there's preferential terms to the next 500K that we're raising. So with that, I thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And have drinks.